Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to 7.2, and this is Mr. Thompson.
I used to be down here. Evening, Mayor, members of the council. This agenda item is on before you as a result of the motion you took at your last meeting on February 28th, directing me to prepare a censure resolution against Councilmember Morson. A brief background for the council and the public. On January 20th of this year, the Brooklyn Park City Manager Jay Strobel received a complaint from a female city employee alleging inappropriate conduct by Councilmember Boyd Morson. Pursuant to the procedures in the Code of Conduct for elected officials, Mayor Jacobson and City Manager Strobel reviewed the complaint in consultation with me, and they concluded that an independent investigation into the matter was warranted. An outside investigator was retained, and on February 16th of this year, she submitted her report to the city manager and myself. That report then was ultimately submitted to the city council, excuse me, and as required by state law, the city council met in a closed session on February 28th for preliminary consideration of the allegations that were made against Councilmember Morson. The council discussed during the closed session whether discipline of any nature was warranted as a result of the investigation. The council then reconvened into open session on February 28th and adopted a motion directing me as city attorney to prepare a resolution of censure against Councilmember Morson. That's the resolution that is before the council tonight. And what it does is the following. The council, if the resolution is adopted, formally censures Councilmember Morson for violating Section 7.12 of the City of Brooklyn Park's respectful workplace policy by engaging in unwanted and unwelcome personal touching towards a city employee that interfered with her work performance and created an intimidating, hostile, and offensive work environment. The second thing that the resolution does is formally censures Councilmember Morson for violating sections 6.1, 6.1.2, and 6.2 of the Elected Officials Code of Conduct by engaging in disrespectful behavior towards a city employee and by sending emails containing belligerent, impertinent, abusive, and disparaging comments to her. The third thing that the censure resolution does is remove Councilmember Morson from his 2022 liaison appointments and his 2022 membership on all city commissions, committees, task force, boards, and commissions. The fourth thing is that until further notice, Councilmember Morson shall have no direct communications with city employees other than the city manager or with respect to EDA matters, the EDA executive director. Any communication from Councilmember Morson, whether verbal or written, must be addressed to the city manager or, with respect to EDA matters, the EDA executive director, with a copy to the city manager. Fifth, Councilmember Morson should, in future public comments, whether verbally or by email, on social media, with respect to city officials and employees, must be professional and not belligerent, impertinent, abusive, or disparaging. And finally, the resolution provides Councilmember Morson with the opportunity for training, education, and counseling on the matters referenced in the resolution. And if Councilmember completes such training, education, and counseling, the City Council will consider lifting the restrictions concerning his liaison appointments and communications with the city manager. city staff through the city manager. That then summarizes the resolution, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I'm going to go ahead and just put a motion on the floor. I'll make a motion to waive the reading and adopt resolution number 2022 to censure Councilmember Boyd Morson for violating the city's respectful workplace policy and the Brooklyn Park elected officials code of conduct policy.
Second.
And in a second, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim, I think I have a question around just the council reconsidering what you were saying, bullets 3 and 4, right, in terms of if he finishes education, training, counseling. So that could happen before the end of 2022, and then council can consider that before, right, the end of 2022, and then that would be another motion to be able to give back those committee appointments. Is that correct?
That's correct. That consideration could take place in 2022 if that's what the council wanted to do.
And then to follow up, if that doesn't happen, then the censor would end in the end of 2022. So then in the beginning of 2023, then like the committee appointments and everything would be on the table again, moving into 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. So,
Yeah. What mechanism do we have in place to enforce all of what we've come up with? So, I mean, the question is, so what?
Mayor Jacobson, Councilmember Russell, a censure is probably the most severe form of action you can take against an elected official. Elected officials are elected, and you get voted on by the people. So the only other, if there was other violations, we could do something similar to this, but it's basically self-enforcing in the sense it says what it says and does what it does.
So there can be multiple censures?
There could be multiple censures for future actions
Yes.
that violate city policies. Sure, yes.
Okay. So the resolution to censure Councilmember Boyd Morson has generated much response among our residents. I'll be supporting this this motion, and this is why I'll be supporting this motion. I think residents rightfully have expressed interest in obtaining more detailed information about the circumstances that led council members to make the unanimous decision to recommend that you come up with this recommendation, this resolution. So while residents are privy to the redacted statement in this matter, City Council members had access to an unredacted, more than 250-page report by a special external investigator that you just referenced. The explicit details in this report cannot be commented on directly due to the confidentiality and the sensitivity of the facts obtained during the investigation. However, what is contained in this report are detailed accounts of overt actions by Mr. Morson, Councilmember Morson, that resulted in some of our female staff members not feeling safe in the workplace. This issue is not a matter of differences in communication styles, personality traits, or political beliefs. It is about upholding a standard where staff feels safe to engage with elected members without fear of retribution. When I was elected into office, I was entrusted to make the best decision on behalf of our residents, even when it is difficult or unpopular. And you can be assured that I have treated this matter with the utmost respect and diligence. Again, my vote to support censuring Councilmember Morson is based on considering the facts, and the facts have led me to vote in the affirmative, and the need for all of us, and for me as a council member, to work to ensure that we create a space that is safe, healthy, and welcoming for everyone who works here at Brooklyn Park. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other names on my board.
Pushed.
Oh, now it is. Okay. Councilmember Morson.
Thank you. I first would like to say I want to apologize to our residents. Apologize to our residents for having to endure such a, I'm going to call it a comical situation that we have here before us. Comical in the sense that if we just heard Councilman Russell speak to the facts of evidence that he heard. In all of these reports, no one ever heard my version. Not mayor, city council member heard me say not one word relative to what they're alleging. And so they based what they heard on a one-sided opinion. Never have I gave my offer to say anything to this because I thought this was foolish from the beginning. I want to once again apologize to the residents, the people that put me here. You put me here for a reason, to ensure and to make sure that I stand with the residents, but that's my promise and my pledge. Total disagreement with what was presented before us. I also want to say this as an important thing. Situations like this has resulted into assassination of people's character throughout history. And not only have it assassinated people's character, it led to some people getting killed because of a white lie. Because of a lie being told against a person of color, a black man. I am that person of color and I am a black man. I stand before you or sit before you, sharing with you that this is a frivolous case, that I did nothing whatsoever to anybody in this city to touch them inappropriately. Nothing to no one. They haven't provided me with any information or evidence relative to what's being said. I just heard of some allegations that were said and brought against me. Yet I requested in several emails to the city attorney information that would shed some additional light to this that I have not received as of yet. So I haven't made any real open comments to anybody, to no real media or those type of things, because again, I just thought this was foolish for someone to bring this up and to allege that this is what was going on. And it really, really pains me for this reason, to know that not the mayor or city council, not one person heard anything from me, period, until I'm speaking to you right now. This is the first and only thing that they heard from me. My side, my version, which I still didn't go into other than the fact that this didn't happen, is that they made a decision without giving me due process in hearing the other side of this conversation. I'm totally not in support of this, of course. I'm totally asking that this be revisited with evidence and my opinion and my thoughts being heard to this particular allegation that was made against me, and the decision that they abruptly made without listening to the other side of the evidence. There's no due process that was made or given to me as a council member by the mayor and this entire council. They just rushed to judge because they heard one side of a situation. I think this is unfair for anybody, and especially in this days and time. And I want to reemphasize, these little white lies is what cost and led to the assassination of people of color's character, as well as resulting into death, harm, and injury to people of color. It also started the Black Wall Street movement that started a town and burnt down a town because of a lie. The 3 men that hung in Duluth, Minnesota because of a lie. The allegations are what they alleged to be, and they're just alleged. In time, I will make a different appeal to this community. I just want to beg your pardon because I didn't mean to bring this on you, and I didn't bring it on you, is what they brought on me. So with that, I want to extremely apologize to our residents for having to endure such behavior, nonsense, as I call it. I do want to say, if ever a female in any position whatsoever feel as though they're being untreated, they have a right to stand up and file whatever they feel as though is uncomfortable to them. However, this is not the case. But I do support any woman that feels as though they've been sexually assaulted, intimidated, threatened, or whatever, how you want to use it or call it. This is not the case. That's not who I am, but this is who they want you guys to think that I am. I truly appreciate this opportunity, moment in time, to share briefly what it is that I wanted to say regarding this. And once again, Councilman Russell emphatically reviewed all the evidence, then he would have heard my side. So that's a true or false fable to anybody that can say that. There's nowhere written where they heard Boyd Morson say not one thing. But I just want to thank you all for this opportunity to lift my voice up to this conversation, as well as deny whatever's been said against me, the charges brought against me. That's not who I am. That's not who you elected me to be. I stood here to represent the people, regardless how difficult or challenging the conversations may have, that we need to have, that we are not having, regardless how challenging or uncomfortable they make somebody feel. They're not uncomfortable with me saying them. I'm a person. Those issues come across this table and it affects people that look like me, I'm gonna say something about it. As we all are supposed to do, to represent the people. People put me here to do such, and I will continue to do that, to stand for, with, and by you, the people. And once again, to the people that put me here, in this people seat that I occupy, I want to apologize to you for having to endure this nonsense. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Mayor Jacobs and members of the council, I do think that the record needs to be corrected on this regards. First of all, the city council did not do the investigation on this matter. It was determined that an outside investigator should be conducted. That investigator contacted Councilmember Morson the same day she was contacted, reached out to him on numerous occasions, asking him if to schedule a time to interview during the investigation. Councilmember Morson chose, and which is his right to do, chose not to be interviewed. He specifically made, and this is all in the investigative report, even the redacted investigative report, this information is all in there. He made several conditions of being interviewed, one of which was he wanted to know the name, the identity, and the complaint, with the complaint being signed. The investigator advised Councilmember Morson that she would share the report with him, the complaint with him, if he chose to be interviewed. I did provide Councilmember Morson a redacted version of the complaint. It was redacted so it wouldn't identify the identity of the complainant, which is private data under the Minnesota state law. So Councilmember Morson had very ample due process opportunity to set forth his side of the story before the investigation, and he chose voluntarily not to do so, which is his right, but that was his choice. I just thought I should correct the record on that.
Thank you. Councilmember Pa.
Thank you, Mayor Jacobson. So I just want to say that I support this censure. Improper behavior and sexual harassment cannot be tolerated, no matter what color or race we are. Elected officials must be held accountable in the same way as anyone else. Unfortunately, because we are elected officials, we aren't held accountable the same way as others, which to me I think is wrong. We must hold ourselves accountable to the highest standard of conduct as elected officials, because our employees deserve better. They deserve a safe and respectful workplace where they do not feel intimidated or feel fear of retaliation. I will always stand against this type of behavior. I will always stand against sexual harassment against anyone. But I think that we forget that as council members, we are in positions of power, and sometimes those positions of power, we don't realize the actions that we take have real consequences to others. And I want us to think about that. I cannot excuse this behavior, and I will support this censure.
Hafner.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to be in this position to be voting on this tonight. I don't think any of us want to be. This is not some political hit job against Councilmember Morson. Maybe he doesn't feel like what he did went to the level that the employee felt like it did. The fact of the matter is it did. She felt that way. She felt unsafe. She felt bullied and intimidated and that kind of stuff, and we just can't have that. I know that the public doesn't get to see every word in that report or the subsequent other information that we were provided or the full copy of that report. But to say that this has something to do with us wanting to put him in some position that we're wanting to, obviously I don't want to see the council member hurt violently in any way, shape, or form, but we have a duty and an obligation to support and defend and protect our employees. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to do that too, because if we just let it go, she could potentially sue the city for a bunch of money because that would potentially be her right. I think it's really, I said this in the meeting and I'll say it out in public. I've been the victim of sexual harassment and harassment at my workplaces, and it's not fun. And who knows if my employers at the time understood that they were doing that to me or that making me feel that way, or this was before sort of a lot of the laws that are thankfully in place now. But we have to take whatever steps we need to take to protect people. And if I appreciate Councilmember Morrison's thought that that's not who he is, and I would hope that he would take a real hard look and understand that I don't think anybody, especially women, want to take any kind of action against other people unless it's true. And I take offense by the fact that we are sort of being accused of not hearing the other side. We would have been happy to hear the other side if he would have chose to meet with the investigator. But he sent a belligerent, nasty email to that investigator and said, basically, you give me what I want, I'm not meeting with you. And that's just not right either. And I don't know, I'm obviously going to be supporting this because we have to all sort of take stock in ourselves. And I've certainly, we all mess up. None of us are perfect. But when we do something wrong, you take responsibility for it and you change your behavior. You don't turn around and blame it on other people and make claims that we're doing things to purposely hurt you and that we're believing lies. That I just, it obviously makes me angry. Being here makes me angry. Having to talk about this and having to take these steps, it disappoints me, it makes me angry, and it makes me sad. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morson.
For the record, I just wanted to clarify something. I didn't say that I was denied an opportunity to speak. I did not say that. I was presented with opportunity to speak, as the city attorney said, and I didn't go because I thought this was foolishness. What I clearly said was the mayor and city council didn't hear anything from me whatsoever in a closed session. I didn't say I wasn't provided an opportunity to speak with the investigator. I did not say that. I said not one of them raised a suspicion and or question of where Councilman Morson cited that is not here. That's all I said. I didn't say that I didn't give that opportunity to the investigator because I still thought this was foolish.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
I'm sorry, Mayor and Council. I do have to just correct one thing here. The purpose of the closed session was not to do the investigation. Councilmember Morson knew that ahead of time. It would have been improper for you to do the investigation during the closed session because the investigation had already been completed. So when that issue came up at the closed session, I did warn you all that if discussion went down that path, you and Councilmember Morson too could be potentially accused of violating the open meeting law. So that was not the time for Councilmember Morson to present his side of the story. The time was when the investigation was ongoing, and he, again, chose not to do that. And once the report came out, then wanted to bring it up in the closed session, which just is not proper.
Thank you. Councilmember Parks.
I too am going to support this. I mean, we got to see the full report, so there's a lot of stuff in here that a lot of the public didn't get to see. I mean, just comments on Facebook that we got to look at, a lot of emails that got sent out to staff, and so I'm going to be supporting this. I'd like to call for the question so we can get this done.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Motion carries.
I oppose.
Thank you.